it was C, so that just the words are switched, but yeah, groups have a common purpose while an aggregate does not, right? So like, y'all ever go to Franklin Park Mall on like the weekend? So like, while you're at Franklin Park Mall, there's a bunch of other people there, y'all are just like milling around, but you're not necessarily part of a group, you're all just people who like happen to be in the same place at the same time. Whereas like this class is a group because you're all here at the same place at the same time, but also you're all students who are here to learn sociology, right? Does that kind of like make sense? Heck yeah. So moving on to question number 2, what is a difference between a primary group and a secondary group? Over, say sociology, group, and activity. And before we get in, I'm just going to kind of describe. So what we're going to do is you're going to have about 10 minutes to sort of start working through this. And once you get going, you're going to identify groups in your life. So we kind of talked about what a primary group is, right? That's a group that just exists for the sake of being a group. It's your family, it's your friends. We talked about secondary groups. That could be classes, it could be a team, it could be anything up to like people in the city of Toledo, right? If you're part of the population of the city of Toledo, that's a secondary group, right? So what you're going to do is kind of identify in your lives, like, oh, I used to work at Donato's Pizza in high school. I don't know if y'all have ever heard of Donato's. If I was doing this worksheet for my secondary group, I'd write co-workers at Donato's as my secondary group, right? Then you'll identify a leader, and that could be literally anybody in any of your groups. It could be one of your parents, it could be Mr. Barnett, it could be your boss, it could be a coach if you're on a sports team, something like that. But real quick, I want to kind of highlight number 4 and number 6, touch on different types of groups that weren't in the video. So there's in-groups and out-groups, and then reference groups. So when we think about an in-group and an out-group, does anybody have a guess on like what an in-group might be, just based on like the word? So an in-group is kind of like a group where the way that you identify with, something you like, or maybe some kind of knowledge you have, something you support, that binds you together with other people who have like a similar interest, and it separates you people who have that interest from people who do not, right? So people who don't have that interest are in the out-group. So like sports, I think, is a really good example of this. Anybody in here have a favorite sports team? No.
Dallas Cowboys.
Dallas Cowboys, yes. Mr. Barnett loves those cowboy masks. Love them. Yeah. So Mr. Barnett is a part of an in-group as a Dallas Cowboys fan, right? And everybody else in the whole country or the world who's a Dallas Cowboys fan is part of that in-group with Mr. Barnett, right? If you're not a Dallas Cowboys fan, like I'm a Cleveland Browns fan. Really like the Browns. They should have made it to the Super Bowl this year. Still heated about that. I'm a part of the out-group. I'm not part of that in-group that Mr. Barnett is in because he likes the Cowboys, right? So that could be applied to literally anything. Like if you're a fan of like Ariana Grande and her music, or like Juice WRLD, right? Like that's an in-group for you, and anybody who's not a fan of those people is part of the out-group. Does that kind of make sense? Awesome. And then the last one, a reference group isn't really its own type of group. It's maybe a distinction on a group you're already in. So your reference groups are groups that influence the way that you behave and the way that you kind of view the world and see yourself, right? So that could be like your family, the way that you like grew up, and like the way that like maybe your parents talk has like influenced how you talk. That could be a reference group for you. Or if you feel like you really identify strongly with like the Mandalorian TV show, right? If you're running around in like the Mandalorian costume and like thinking about like, oh man, I love the Mandalorian, I'm gonna say all the catchphrases and stuff, that'd be like a reference group for you, like fans of that show. So that's just something that kind of influences you. So I'm gonna give you all about 10 minutes to sort of do this activity and just on your sheet, and then we're gonna come in and maybe have a discussion about different groups in your lives. So go ahead.